Yeah, I'll go.
Okay guys, welcome to our electrical engineering panel. We have some upperclassmen here to answer whatever questions you guys have. Hopefully you have plenty. So we'll let them introduce themselves first.
Why don't you introduce yourself?
Oh, Carissa Serrano. I'm one of your TAs for Intro to Engineering.
Hi, I'm Enrique. I'm a senior with a concentration in electronics. What was the other question?
Involvement.
I come to school, so yeah.
Are you involved in any organizations?
Not really.
IEEE?
I mean, not really.
Last year you were watching.
He's there. Last year.
He went from president to nothing.
Last,
Yo.
Wow. Let's keep it professional, guys.
yeah. What was the other question?
Okay, that was all four.
Nice.
You're the one that put you here.
Hello, I'm Adira, and I am an electrical engineer doing computer embedded as my concentration. I am involved with IEEE. Last year I was the membership chair, and this year I'm the makerspace chair. It's a new initiative for students to get involved in projects and stuff, where you, like, the electrical department saw that after electronics, you just have senior design as a group project kind of thing. So we were just like trying to fill that gap where we give you time to work on projects, and these projects we went to like conferences like next semester or in March. So we're trying to promote like teamwork, resume building, and also skill building as well. So it's all for you guys, and as well as my, is there anything else? I think
No, you said your concentration.
Yeah. So that's me. So if you have any questions about Makerspace, yeah. So go ahead, Brian.
All right. Hello, my name is Fernando. I'm electrical engineering, concentration in power, and some of my, I guess, what would you say, participation in organizations include IEEE mainly. I'm the social events and resource chair, so I plan on like the game nights and study nights and stock up the lounge for all the good cheap snacks that Toby loves. And I'm also part of Makerspace as well, and we're building a drone currently, so that's really cool. And more or less, yeah, that's what I do.
Hello everybody, my name is Michael Vitar. I'm an electrical engineer concentrating in electromagnetics. The involvement, I am involved in the Society of Petroleum Engineering. I'm a membership chair there. I'm also an electronics TA, so if you guys are taking that, I'm the one that's grading your papers. So, yeah.
Hi, I'm George Hodgkins. I'm a computer engineer, which is basically just a concentration of electrical engineering, and I'm not really in any organizations. I'm a TA for 1331, that's why I'm here.
Cool. Okay, so let's start with, how did you guys pick electrical engineering as your major?
How?
Yeah, like what led you to this major?
Okay, I was gonna say how. I clicked a button. That was it.
All right.
Why did I choose electrical engineering? So the main reason was because I was super curious about like Bluetooth and Wi-Fi and wireless internet. So for me, it was kind of just like magical, like the fact that you can just like use internet and load a video like on a screen. I was like, dude, how is that, like how? So that's kind of, and then also I was good at math in high school. So when I'm really interested in like this magic-like stuff and you're good at math, it's like, oh, you should do electrical engineering because that's what they deal with, like signals, electromagnetics, Bluetooth, microprocessors and stuff. And so because of that, I was like, well, you know, I might as well try electrical engineering, and if I'm not good enough or I'm not smart enough, if I'm not smart enough, then at least I can kind of say like I tried. Like I don't have to kind of like quote unquote die without knowing. So thankfully I'm still here, senior, so chances are pretty strong that I'm going to graduate, so that's pretty cool. And then as well, the job market, electricals, I mean, you're kind of guaranteed a job, honestly, because everywhere you go, people are going to need power, they're going to need something. Like everything's automated nowadays, so automation's really big, control systems, all that stuff. Power, obviously, everyone needs that everywhere in the world, so, you know, that was kind of just a plus that like this major specifically is basically like has a huge job market, and it's very diverse. Yeah.
Do you guys have any other inputs?
For me, like when I got into it because of my family. My whole family is in electrical engineering, but it's not that I was pressurized into it. I was actually considering chemical or any other concentration. Like mechanical was another one I was kind of like looking at. But my dad was like, "Let me tell you about how many different job opportunities that I got," and I was thoroughly impressed. He was in India. There's something like a NASA, like a space research organization. He was in that, and then he was like, "I don't like this job." He moved out to another job, and that was an American company. They wanted to send him here. So he got so many opportunities, and then I was like, oh, like this major is very vast and broad, and that's what attracted me more into electrical engineering. When I got here, I started working with robots, and I was like, okay, I'm sold, I'm done. That kind of thing came to me. So like electrical engineering, from then on, I was like, I should just stick to the classes, finish the classes, because that's what I've heard from all my family. Like, finish your classes. Most of it will be applying. You have the concepts in your head, but in the real world, it really doesn't matter. It just matters that you got a certain degree. But like, I've seen my dad work a lot of chemical side of things because he's in Houston. But again, if you go to California, it's a totally different volume over there. So it's a very vast major. So.
For me, you're getting ready to graduate high school. There's been this pressure building since middle school, like you have to start deciding what you're gonna do for the rest of your life, boom, like that. And I didn't know what I was gonna do. It was between like architecture, being a music major, and then all of a sudden I was like, well, okay, let's look at what I'm really good at. And I was like, math and science. Okay, like, that opens up to like, the STEM fields, right? And I was like, okay, well, out of all these options, what is actually interesting to me? And kind of like Enrique, where he was like really interested to see how the world operates and works based on our degree. I wanted to learn more. And yes, you can go online, you can kind of get a feel for how things work, but when you know the theory behind it, it makes it a lot more interesting and you feel a lot more fulfilled. So that's what I was looking when I got an electrical engineering, when I'm working towards my electrical engineering degree, understanding how things work and not just looking at the face value of what it does.
And if you guys have questions, you can ask them, by the way. Don't be shy.
You get a cookie if you ask a question.
I don't think I really want cookies.
No.
Yes.
I have a question. It's kind of about computer engineering and electrical engineering with a focus on computers. Because like that's what I'm like in between right now.
Yeah.
And like what I get from it, from what like I've researched, because like I don't want to know anything else than like what I've looked up online, is that like electrical engineering with a focus on computers is more like hardware and more dealing with the electrical side without like as much programming, because I know you still have to know programming.
Yeah.
Obviously, right? But what's like the biggest difference between computer engineering and electrical engineering with a focus in computers?
So I can't speak for computers, but I know that computers goes into depth about software engineering. So Dr. Trombetta puts it like this. So this is computer science, this is electrical engineering, like hardware, full on like power kind of thing. And computer engineering comes over here, but computer embedded comes right here. And the thing why it's in the smack middle is because you have flexibility in what classes you take. Like you have opportunities to take like 5 ECE course electives, whereas in computer engineering you just get 2 or 3. So you have to choose between those 2. So you can actually have a whole dynamic of how to change your classes. And classes, and Dr. Dave always says, it doesn't really matter like what concentration you're in. You got an electrical engineering degree. Like, you know most of the stuff, like all the fundamentals are there. So
But you're in computer, right?
Yeah.
You can kind of talk about
In
it.
computer, yeah, no, do embedded in computer, don't do computer. Computer is basically there because the university was like, we want to have a computer engineering degree. So they just like picked some classes off the embedded in computer plan and were like, all right, the computers have to take these. And then they get a few less electives and a couple more computer science classes. It's not really worth it.
Yeah.
But it's basically the same degree.
And then, would you consider yourself a computer engineer or an electrical engineer?
I'm all, whenever I go to companies, I just say electrical, because even if they think that you are computer, they know that you know programming. You have to take programming, electrical engineering. So if you go up to company, you basically say you're electrical, because my friend, we went to a conference the other time. I went up to Apple, and the electrical engineering line had 3 people, whereas computer engineering and software was just like huge. And I went and talked to the lady, and she was like, oh, I interviewed 5 people. I was like, what? And Apple, too, that too. So that's why I was just like, you don't know how much opportunities that computer engineers have, that if you say electrical, there is opportunities. They don't really care. Like in the industry, you just have a degree. So, but if you are given the option, I would like to say get electrical with computer embedded.
It's also more valuable for the companies. If you're electrical, but you know programming, more than like the other way around, if you're computer based, because then
You know the electrical side?
well, in their eyes, you're more stuck on that software side, and you can't, it doesn't bleed into the hardware. It does work the other way around, so electrical does bleed into software.
So can you guys kind of discuss like your concentrations, because there's, how many of them, like six?
Oh, too many, yeah, there's 6.
Yeah, there's a lot.
And you guys all have different ones though.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, because I have to figure concentration and I don't know what to do.
There
right now,
is
so.
one that's not represented.
Nanosystems.
Doesn't matter.
I mean, we'll talk about.
Just talk about
I'll-
which you're.
Yeah, that's where
I don't
So,
know.
well, but if you guys don't know, are most of you guys an intro to engineering? So you have to pick, in your last 2 years, you have to pick a concentration in electrical engineering.
That's after you take circuits too, right?
No, it's after you take signals.
It's when I was in
Yeah,
signals.
circuits too, around that time.
Because I've seen Amanda send out emails only if you're in signals.
Oh,
You
really?
can always
You just have
change.
to pick it before you can take degree electives.
Yeah, you basically have to pick it before you graduate, or they won't give you like the graduation certificate there. So there's 6, one of them is nanosystems, which is the only one that's not represented here, so I guess we'll quickly go over that. Nanosystems is like in the micro scale, and it's basically a lot of chemistry, so it's about how they interact in like the small, very micro level, right?
And I've heard from one of my seniors that it is very chemical based. So if you are interested in chemistry and chemical engineering, go for it, because I've heard that that's what they do, but it's very, very concentrated. It's like you get into a pigeonhole and you don't get out of it much. But you can go into research, and they have a lot of money and scope out there for that.
That's another thing, if you like research, that's the degree to get. If you're going nanosystems, a bachelor's really isn't enough. So if you do nanosystems, you kind of have to get a master's at least. And a lot of the jobs are going to be research based, because that's like on the come up. So that's like, the research right now is really popular, but as far as applications, it's not like you can go into industry with a nanosystem concentration. So if you're going nanosystems, you're basically going to you're like, I'm going to do research and I'm going to get a master's. That's kind of like the mindset if you're doing nanosystems. But it is very interesting, but a lot of chemistry, so.
Is Nancy Bladden?
Yeah, Nancy.
Yeah.
Alex is also nanosystems.
Yeah.
They graduate, well, Alex, I don't know where he's at.
But yeah.
So I'm an electronics concentration, and that's again small scale. So like in a phone, for example, there's processors in here, and which is basically a circuit board, but really tiny with lots of tiny transistors. And so kind of like the electronics is more like of how these small devices interact. So every year Apple has like faster and faster CPUs or whatever, Intel, all of that. So if you want a job with like hardware based, like Intel or something like that, with processors and small scaled, like MOSFET transistor stuff, all that stuff. That's basically electronics, basically. The design of kind of like the hardware inside computers and microprocessors, like the brain of whatever computer, and by computer I use that loosely, so it could be anything really.
Yeah. And my concentration is involved in this. I just have a model or whatever. So basically, computer embedded is very similar to computer engineering. And what it does is that it gives you a lot of programming-based courses that you have to take, and it gives you insight on how to deal with embedded systems, as in like how to program those chips, and how to deal with CPUs, like how processors works, and it's a bigger and like on a bigger scale of microprocessors in the class. microprocessors class is a little intimidating in the beginning, but if you understand the concepts, it's very easy to like go up for within this concentration. It's a very fun concentration. You get to do a lot of labs, and it's all fun. Like this, I actually got this to work, and then realized the board fried itself. So I have to fix that. So like those debugging problems, I love to do. And as some engineers love debugging, and that's what I really want to focus on. So that, like, I personally, even though I'm taking this, there is one more concentration that is not represented here. It's the signals and signals, communications, and controls classes. That concentration is a little bit broad, and there's a lot of job opportunities out there. It's a lot of automation, and I've heard that every company needs a controls engineer. So like controls is a very nice concentration, and I'm actually taking a lot of classes within controls, but my concentration is embedded. So it really doesn't matter what you're like in your degree, you're taking embedded or whatever, but you can, like, I'm personally taking controls because when I went into my co-op, they were like, oh, this is an automation, you know programming, so here's a lot of automation stuff to do. It's a controls job. I'm in computer, but it doesn't really matter. So, yeah, that's my take on it.
Since you guys like choose your concentrations and everything, do you guys have a set of classes that you have to take?
Yes. Yes, you have to take at least 4 required, or some of the concentrations will require 3, and all the others are electives that you have to take. Yeah, good.
All right, I'm Power. I would say, I think it's fair to assume that Power definitely has maybe like the most amount of jobs. Not to say that like these guys can't get it, because, and again, anyone with electrical engineering or like maybe even computer can get in that field. But that field has probably the most jobs available, I'd say, for electrical engineers. And most people who go into Power end up usually getting jobs, I guess, a little bit more easily after they graduate. So what Power does, right? Power and transmission, distribution, all that good stuff. It can range anywhere from like the actual generation of power all the way to transmission and then distribution, so like home. You can look at commercially, industrialized stuff, or you can look at like more like low voltage applications where it's just like dealing with one building. There's so many different opportunities for power concentrations. I think Althea, you were doing your
Yes.
Greens Point.
Oh yeah, so we did a kind of co-op, like 2 co-ops actually, in Centerpoint Energy, and basically in the beginning I was in the programming side of things, like a lot of automation, analytics, that kind of thing. Like, okay, this transformer went out, this transformer went out, find out what happened. So I look at the data for the past 1 month or so, like compare it and see the graph or whatever, make analytics and be like, okay, I think it's because there was a switching order at this day, and that might have triggered it or something like that. And that was very, very what I do. The second semester was very technical, and I was distribution planning. So, like in your city, you have transmission lines and distribution lines that you don't see at all. Even I did not see. Then I had to go and basically make a plan where they put a new transformer in there, and how does that change that whole city or whatever. So you have to actually find ways to switch around, and that actually got me a lot of technical knowledge within Centerpoint and electrical side of things. And again, it's just giving me another broad way to like branch into. So it's an experience for me. So yeah, it's all that. Yes.
Like co-ops or whenever you take time off school to like go work with a company, right?
Yes.
So did you take off a semester or
Yes, I did.
2 semesters or a semester?
I actually interject to that.
Okay.
You can take classes still. I mean, it depends, right? So I was actually able to negotiate during my term for me to get off early on some days. Like instead of leaving at 5, I leave at 3 and make up the hours by coming in earlier the next day. It's really rough. I mean, like you'll be really tired a lot, but you can still continue your degree while you finish co-ops.
Yes. Yeah.
How did you guys like get those co-ops?
Oh, career fair.
Career fair mostly, yeah.
Yeah. The thing is, I took a semester off. I was actually planning on getting a minor. And then I was like, okay, I'm just gonna drop that minor plan and just go with this co-op and take a semester off. I'm a senior too, so like I'm actually credit-wise I'm a senior. But I haven't, I spread out my degree plan. And that's one advice I want to give you all. Don't rush it. Do not rush it. It's not a race. It's no one's getting first or second. It's just get yourself immersed into this degree. It's really nice. It's a really enjoyable degree. But take your time. Go do internships, co-ops, or whatever. And then when you get out of college, you know what you're gonna do by that time. Like if you have 3 co-ops or 3 internships, you know what you're gonna do. So please do not rush it. Yes, college is very tiring. You feel like you're here forever, but it's worth it later on. Yeah.
How much experience did you guys have, or like what grade, were you like sophomores, freshmen?
0.
Not really?
Yeah.
You gotta
Oh
start
yeah,
somewhere.
they take you in with like nothing. Yeah, they'll take you in, and for the most part, most co-ops, internships, they expect that you know nothing.
Yeah.
What makes a good intern, a good co-op, and what the companies are really looking for is that you know nothing, but you're willing to learn. And the majority of it is just being humble and saying and admitting that you don't know things. I mean, Athira could definitely attest to that. She had a manager who literally that was his entire ideology, where it was, you need to have a question a day at least.
Yeah.
And that should even be like bare minimum. You know, you should be expected to ask a lot more than just 1 question a day. Even in my co-op and internships experiences, I've been always asking questions, trying to figure out how things work, how can you improve them, if there's like already ways out there to improve them, and what you can do in your in your position, right? And just to kind of wrap up like power, so it's very broad as well. There's a lot of different places you can work. You can even work in like the oil industry as well, right? I mean, it's oil, energy, all the good stuff. The classes you'll be taking, circuits and systems is a must. It's where you'll be learning about 3-phase power. So you'll be learning basically how everything starts, like at the generation, all the way to how it gets to your outlet at home, and how that works. And yeah.
Okay, Michael, what was your concentration?
My concentration is electromagnetics. I don't want to be that guy, but basically it's like the highest level. So
It's actually really, really challenging.
basically it's like the fundamentals of electrical engineering. You need to understand like the theory behind everything, and basically circuit analysis is a model for like electromagnetics. But pretty much if you want to be in this concentration, you need to have a passion for like mathematics and physics. So if you're that kind of person, then go for it. Another thing I want to say is I don't really believe in concentrations that much. What I'm trying to say, what I'm really trying to say is like I feel like it's more of a personality type, right? At least for undergrads. And once you get into your PhD, that's when you actually know the knowledge and get a full understanding. But what I'm saying right now is like pick the concentration that you feel like will get you through this degree plan the fastest way, the easiest way. Like if you're good at math and physics, and go ahead and do the electromagnetics. Even though some people might think it's hard, it might be easy for you. If you like hands-on stuff, do electronics.
Care about.
I'll stop there.
And to add on to that, I mean, we have the flexibility to pick the classes, so you could be very diverse in terms of what you're picking. You don't have to just take all coding classes or just take electronics classes. You could have a little bit of everything, so that's the beauty of I think, ECE is you have that flexibility of being very well-rounded, I guess you could say. Okay, sorry.
So computer engineering, like I mentioned before, is basically embedded, but they pick half your electives for you. And there's a couple more higher level, like computer science, software engineering classes that you have to take. Employers expect you to be more on the programming side, but if you demonstrate like technical hardware skills, they'll gladly let you do that too, they don't really care that much. At least with like computer stuff, you probably couldn't do like analog electronics, but why would you be a computer engineer? But yeah, it's more, I mean, the idea of the degree is more programming focused, but again, it's not really like fully fleshed out, so it's kind of just like embedded. So, yeah, what Athira said applies.
So of all the classes, oh, you
What's
have a
the
question?
difference between, I guess, like being in Cullen and technology?
What?
Like,
Well-
isn't there like electrical, I mean, isn't there like, you
Well,
know,
this is engineering.
Okay.
So,
I mean,
So,
this is,
I've seen this. I've seen people who are from technology, and the thing with them is that they do a lot of practical stuff. They actually know about breadboarding and like PCB boarding
yeah, I've
before.
heard that it's more like lab-based
Yeah.
and then, and Cullen it's
Yeah.
more theory-based.
Yeah.
So,
Cullen is
I mean,
very
like,
theory.
on, I guess, long-term wise,
in terms of like
Fundamental. Yeah.
jobs, you can, if you're going to the College of Technology, you'll be like a tech. When you graduate, it's like the person who actually like solders the boards, like tests the designs and stuff in lab. And engineers are the people who design the stuff, basically.
There we go. Design, that's basically the key difference.
So, yeah,
Bit more money.
just a bit.
But you could also get like your PE if you're
but
doing tech.
is it still as
Yeah.
flexible, I guess, as the other one? Cause you're saying it's only, I guess, technician, more wise,
Yeah, it's,
and then you'll be more in design for electrical.
It's
Then
just-
will it still be as broad as in technology?
I think the job market is good, but I don't think it's as diverse. But I mean, everyone needs like electrical techs, like, again, like everywhere, so.
yeah. And yeah, I mean, engineers are expected to have the technical skill set, they just probably won't use it anywhere near as much.
I feel like physics is like really important to being an electrical engineer, so like, cause isn't that kind of like where you get your bases of,
Concentration.
or actually just like figure that out if it's always like I'm wrong, if like physics is that important or not.
It is very important. Like, the other thing that I've realized is I thought I wasn't good at electrical, like, electrical side of physics because I took physics in UH, did not do that. Please do not do that,
Like,
that's
you
alright.
can avoid it, like,
No, even if you did it, it's fine, it's just, like, you can actually do it in HCC and transfer it over or something like that.
Or Sanda.
Yeah,
It's the same quality
yeah.
here, the exams are just harder.
yeah, and the thing is, I thought I wasn't good at electrical systems or anything like circuit-based at all. And I took Dr. Dave and Dr. Aksu, I was like, never mind, I'm good. So it's not, they will teach you, like especially the circuits classes, please take it with the hard teachers because you will actually learn. Not like, oh, people who actually make your life like not great, but like what I'm trying to say is they will actually make you think about it, like take a step back, think about the circuit. So you will learn about the physics part of it as you go on with your college, like, but you need to be willing to learn that physics thing. It is there. It is a thing that you have to learn, but I believe that you think that you're bad at physics right now, you're not. You're okay.
It's good to have an idea. I mean, like for circuit analysis, when they start the class, I mean, they start off like right off talking about electrons and stuff like that. They define voltage, they define current, all that stuff. So they kind of like redefine it in the earlier engineering classes and EM as well. They slightly talk about like, well, before they get deep into Maxwell equations for like electromagnetic fields and such like that, that they'll kind of like prep you for a second and then a couple lectures and then boom, jump right into it. So I think if you did well in physics 2, great. If you didn't, you'll have a chance to kind of like get your fundamentals in these classes. But by the time you're like getting towards your senior classes, the professors will very expect you to like kind of have an idea of how things work. So when they're explaining things, you don't go, wait, how does that work again? And they're like, you learned this in previous class, so I don't need to explain it. Some professors will get say,
Yeah, and your question was how much you like need to be comfortable with physics for the degree. It depends a lot on the concentration. If you get more towards like the embedded and computer side, I mean, you need to understand the physics theory to pass your classes, but you're not gonna be interacting with it on a daily basis. Like, I mean, you don't like open up your C programmer in the morning and be like, all right, how does this affect the electrons on my board? So,
You
yeah.
fry the board, you fry the board.
Yeah, so you don't, yeah, if your physics isn't like if you're not a fan of physics, then you don't, most of the concentrations except for nano and EM probably won't empower,
Yeah.
yeah, okay, okay, yeah, and probably electronics, so, but particularly digital stuff. 'Cause,
How much physics do you use?
Okay, so before like our
She had
concentration,
another
oh,
question,
yes, sorry, you didn't see.
I'm sorry.
Not enough questions.
How can we like avoid physics here, like the next semester we have to take?
Oh, no, I'm not saying don't take it at all, like, you'll be fine, it's just that one advice I got very late in my degree plan, and it affected my GPA,
So,
but
yeah,
that's the only thing, it doesn't matter.
I mean, the answer to your question is you apply at HCC for a physics course, and then later you will transfer that credit in.
yeah,
So
you just have
that,
to commute, which
but,
sucks.
but keep in mind that until you get that credit, you won't be able to take any classes that require that credit. So you'll have to take it next semester, and then you'll have to be coming to UH and HCC just for physics, and then transfer that credit over once you're done, so you can proceed with your next classes that require physics too.
Pro tip, winter
You could do a winter
Winter
session,
mini session,
Winter.
it's like over the winter, just do it,
or a summer session.
It's just,
Yeah.
you know, everybody's having fun, their holiday, and you're just sitting there.
that's the only thing.
That's the only downside.
Because like all the professors are bad, like all the
Yeah.
regular professors on physics are like really bad.
Yep.
They're brilliant, but they can't really teach.
See, the thing is, I've heard when one of the professors used Dr. Dave's question on their physics test, did not do well. None of those students got it.
like a
All-
circuits question?
Yeah, a
Well,
circuits
that makes
question.
sense though, because the
Yeah.
circuit they teach in physics is like,
It's not even close.
Yeah,
here's a
but-
resistor.
But none of the people who are not in the income circuits running right now did not get that question
Yeah.
right, because it's pretty hard here. They will teach you, and you will be equipped in doing those problems. It's just the professors here like confuse you. I personally think they confuse you, but you'll be fine. You'll be fine, I'm telling you.
And keep in mind, it takes time
Yeah.
at practice, and that goes for any classes, you know, circuits, electronics. You know, at first it doesn't necessarily make sense if, you know, you see it the first time, but, you know, as you keep on doing it, it will eventually,
Too.
you'll see it, you know, happen, and so it just takes time, but in practice, really, is the key
And
to
it
it.
takes a lot of discipline, like you guys
Yeah.
have to understand that you have to sometimes teach yourself, or like just, I think working with other people is a big thing in engineering. Because if you don't understand something, you know, you can talk to somebody else and they may not understand or whatever.
Yeah.
Teach each other stuff, learn from each other.
I don't know.
What is one of the hardest classes you think we've had to take, like before our certain concentrations? What do you think that they have to be prepared for?
Concentration?
Electronics?
Circuits.
No, I mean like, we all have to take like, like before we get into our concentrations, we all take the
before
same
the
general
general,
classes,
okay.
yeah.
EM waves probably.
Yeah, EM waves is pretty hard.
Depends on the professor.
Depends on the
Yeah.
professor.
Well, if you take the actual